Ever since the Iron Age, mankind has considered metal precious. It is strong, resilient, sturdy, ideal for the tools we need. But for metal to serve our purposes, we must apply tremendous energy to transform it into things we can use. It's up to you to keep this energy under control. Welding and cutting operations harness this energy to modify these metals. Before using any welding equipment, make sure cables are not worn to the extent of exposing bare conductors. Cables with splices or repairs within 10 feet of the electrode holder should never be used. Report any faulty or defective equipment to your supervisor. Avoid coiling or looping the electrode cable around parts of your body. If you need to work in a permit-required confined space, you must follow specific precautions. Make sure you're completely familiar with those precautions and are in full compliance before you start any work. Proper ventilation is required for any confined space work. When cutting or welding in confined spaces, the gas cylinders or welding machines must be left on the outside. Anytime you leave a welding operation for more than a few minutes, such as for a lunch break, you need to eliminate the possibility of accidents. All electrodes need to be removed from the holders and located so they won't make accidental contact. Remove all leads and torches from a confined space. When arc welding, disconnect the machine from the power source. Never dip hot electrode holders into water, because that could expose you to electric shock. When gas welding, torch valves need to be closed and the gas supply positively cut off outside any confined areas. It's also a good idea to remove the torch and hose from any confined area. You need to use the proper protective gear anytime you're cutting or welding. To protect your eyes, helmets or hand shields are required during all arc welding or arc cutting operations, except underwater. You need suitable goggles during gas welding or oxygen cutting operations. Of course, you need to wear protective clothing that is suitable for the type of project you're working on. Helpers or attendants also need proper eye protection. Other workers nearby need to be protected by screens. Otherwise, they are required to wear appropriate goggles. In addition to the general rules, there are some regulations that apply specifically to acetylene welding or cutting. Everyone who uses fuel gas, such as acetylene, needs to be trained in how to use it safely. Acetylene is very unstable at high pressures. That's why it should never be generated, piped, or used at pressures greater than 15 psig. The only reason acetylene can be safely stored under higher pressures in cylinders is because it is dissolved in acetone. That's why it is crucial that you only open valves on acetylene tanks when they are upright. Otherwise, the acetone may leak out and create a hazardous situation. If you are going to be using torches that have shut-off valves, they should not be connected directly to the cylinder. You need to first reduce the pressure by installing a suitable regulator attached to the cylinder valve or manifold. Before you connect a regulator to a cylinder valve, you need to crack the valve to clear it. Before cracking a valve, make sure it's not possible for the gas to create a flammable atmosphere or to reach a nearby source of ignition. Nearby welding work, sparks, or flame could set off the gas. Open the valve slightly and close it immediately. Cracking the valve like that clears the dust and dirt out of the valve so it won't get into the regulator. Be sure to crack the valves on both the fuel gas cylinder and the oxygen cylinder. When you're cracking a valve, stand to one side so it won't be aimed at you or anyone else. Once the regulator is attached, you should always open the valve slowly so it doesn't damage the regulator. It's very important that valves can be closed quickly if there's an emergency. That's why valves on fuel gas cylinders should never be open more than 1 1/2 turns. However, the valves on oxygen cylinders should always be open all the way. Excessive pressure can corrode the valve or valve seat so it will not close properly. If you need to use a special wrench or other device on the stem of the valve, always keep it in place while using the cylinder so fuel can be shut off quickly in an emergency. You should never put anything on top of fuel gas cylinders that might damage the safety device or keep you from closing the valve quickly. Before removing a regulator from a cylinder valve, you always need to be sure that the valve is closed and the gas is released from the regulator. Again, make sure there are no sources of ignition nearby. If you find a leak around the valve stem when you open the valve on a fuel cylinder, close the valve and tighten the gland nut. If that doesn't fix the leak, stop using the tank right away. Tag it and put it in a safe place to be checked immediately. When you are doing welding and cutting, you are reshaping our world. But the same energy that can create can also destroy. That energy is in your hands. It's up to you to control it and use it wisely. This is James Drury, reminding you to take care and be safe.